Hello, and welcome to the Terp Family Fundamentals webinar series. My name is Kate Belney. I work in the Office of Parent and Family Affairs. And for those of you who are new, this webinar series is intended to help parents and families become informed consultants on different campus resources. We often say during our presentation, during orientation, that there's really no problem, or during the normal course of events, there's really no problem that can arise at the University of Maryland that a student can't solve using the many resources available to them here. And we know that your students are going to be going to you for help in their decision making when they're quite literally in the middle of tackling their problems. You might get a phone call as they're walking across campus. So at the end of this webinar, you'll see a list of about 20 different webinar topics that we plan to host throughout the year to really help you be prepared as possible for when that moment comes when your student is tackling a problem, and you'll be informed to be able to help them navigate that. So you can always visit our website at TerpFamily.umd.edu to register for any of our upcoming webinars, and we certainly hope you'll come back and join us. But today we're joined by Casey and Imani from the Transfer and Off-Campus Student Life Office to learn more about how family members can help their transfer Terp be successful at Maryland. And so welcome so much, Casey and Imani. We're excited to have you here.
Great, thanks so much. Kate, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you perfectly.
Great. Well, a big welcome to our Terp families. My name is Casey Luxo, and I'm the coordinator of Transfer and Off-Campus Student Life.
And my name is Imani Marcus, and I am an English major here at the University of Maryland on the pre-law track. I transferred from Hampton University and Howard Community College, and I am an engagement learning assistant and peer mentor within the Office of Transfer and Off-Campus Student Life.
So we're very excited to speak with you all today to talk a little bit about how you can support your transfer students. So thank you very much, Kate, for having us. We know that transfer students are really in a unique place because they've been a student before at their previous institution. But as they transfer, they're not quite a brand new student because they've been to college before, but they're new to Maryland. And so students often go through a transition period as they're learning to navigate this new campus environment. We also know that transfer students have the best transition, the smoothest transition when they gain knowledge and resources and information about the different offices across campus that can support them. As well as boosting their support system around them, whether it's their friends or their family members. So by attending this webinar today, we hope to be able to give their families a little bit of information so that you can all help boost their support system to make sure that these students have a positive transition to UMD and can have a great experience here while they're finishing their degree. So in our webinar today, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the common challenges that transfer students go through, just to kind of help orient you to the types of things that your student may experience. But then we're also going to talk about the various resources that our office and others on campus provide transfer students to help make sure that they, again, have that positive transition. In preparation for this webinar, I need to give a little shout out to my student Imani here because in preparation, she interviewed not only her mom, but also a couple different transfer students and their families to kind of learn about what questions or concerns that they have. So thanks to Imani for doing that so that we can make sure that we're giving you all the information that is hopefully the most useful to you. Whenever I present across campus or even outside of campus, I always like to start by talking a little bit about what the transfer population looks like at the University of Maryland. One fact that I think a lot of folks are very surprised about, even sometimes our faculty and staff as well as our students, is the high proportion of transfer students that we have on this campus. So 36% of all new students that were admitted in fall 2014 were transfer students. So any way you look at the numbers, whether you're looking at the total undergraduate students who are enrolled, or whether you're looking at newly admitted students, or whether you're looking at graduating students, about a third of our students are transfer students. This is great, really, because when transfer students are coming here, they're among lots of other students that have been through that experience as well. We also know that our transfer students here at University of Maryland are highly engaged. 77% of them want to make a lifelong connection, and they hope to make new friends and make connections both with their faculty and staff members. 86% of transfer students want to do an internship, which is very fortunate because we have a lot of wonderful resources, career resources for students to do that. Almost 50% of transfer students want to study abroad, and I like to always point out that, again, we have a great campus environment for studying abroad. I myself was a transfer student, and when I transferred, I wasn't actually allowed as a transfer student to do a study abroad. Maryland's not like that. It's highly encouraged for students to study abroad, and we have a whole office that's dedicated to that. So we have a lot of students interested in that. But we also know that transfer students go through some challenges, and this is a concept we, not only we, but also lots of researchers in the field like to call transfer shock. And really what that term means is that it's particularly in students' first semester as they're getting acclimated to the new environment. A lot of times this is a larger campus than they're used to. Sometimes students can struggle a little bit academically and in other ways. That can sometimes mean a little bit of a dip in your GPA for your first semester, but students typically recover as they, again, just become more familiar with the resources across campus. We also know that students want mentors, and again, they want to be socially engaged, but a lot of students still feel like they're adjusting to the social life of college, and we're going to talk a lot about how to help students with that. Another thing I like to always recognize is that our transfer students are incredibly diverse, and they come from all different colleges, parts of the country or the world, different ages, different needs, different wants. And so as a campus, we really need to make sure that we're always providing students with lots of opportunities to engage in different ways so that we can meet students with those diverse needs. And even though students may feel disconnected initially, our goal is to make sure that they don't, to make sure that they feel instantly connected to the campus, instantly feel welcome, and a part of the UMD family.
And as Casey did mention a little bit earlier, I did do some research by surveying and interviewing some of my close friends and families, as well as other transfers that I know that are transferring to the university or have already transferred previously to the semester. And these were some of the concerns that they got and they gave back. And based on their feedback, I was able to come up with some pretty good tips and conversation starters that I think might be a little bit helpful. Because as Casey did mention, when I first transferred, I did have a bit of a transfer shock and a little bit of time that was taken to adjust. And I definitely know what I could have done differently now. And I think that's important going forward, is sharing that information and that knowledge with the new transfer students and their families. Some of the things that families can expect during the transition would be probably the most frequent one that I heard was students not being in contact with their families as much as they used to be it from wherever they're transferring from. Sometimes you have different needs when you are first starting college versus when you are transferring to a new university, especially one that is as large as Maryland with so many things going on from week to week. So there are some times that I would go probably a solid 2 weeks without talking to my parents or my friends, just because I was getting very busy. The days go very quickly at Maryland. You have these schedules, you're trying to create your own schedule around your academic schedule. There's a lot of adjustments that need to be made, or how to get around, whether you're a commuter or just trying to find your classes. And with all that going on in the first couple of weeks and a very limited amount of time that is usually allotted to do so, it sometimes can be hard to keep up with those phone calls and those text messages and emails back home. So that was probably the most frequent concern that I heard from families, was not hearing from their Terp as often as they would feel comfortable. And so basically I've come up with some ways that I think can combat the long hauls of not communicating with families. So some of the reasons that you might not have heard from your Terp, it's definitely because of the ones that I just said, but also because there's a lot of fun things that are designed to attract your transfer students' attention pretty early on in the semesters. And that's really just to kind of delay or forego any feelings of feeling disconnected or as if there aren't anything to do or feeling bored. So not just academically schedules that they're trying to get used to, but there are also lots of fun events that are hosted on campus and lots of things that students are encouraged to get involved in, such as fairs, there's carnivals, there are themed all-night events that are run by the school through our student union. There's also, of course, organization-specific activities. So if your Terp does have any interest in certain organizations or communities on campus, a lot of those activities will kind of come up pretty close to the beginning of the semester in order to get the Terps involved as soon as possible. But that also can lead to a lot of students feeling a little bit overwhelmed with so many opportunities, or the overall excitement to just dive right in, find their groove, and create a schedule and an environment that works best for them. And so with all that happening, it sometimes can be common for transfers to forget to return phone calls and emails a lot quicker because they're trying to get accustomed to campus. They're excited about the new events and ideas that they have to make their college experience great, or they could just simply be trying to, work out their schedule, find time to sleep, and figure out what works for them to study, where that place is to study, since there are so many places on campus for them to have that study time and that quiet and private time that makes them feel more comfortable as they're transitioning. And also, as a former transfer student myself and a current TOCSL employee and working with transfers, I am pretty privy to the challenges that a lot of transfers have faced. I've been fortunate enough to spend the last year of my time in the transfer and off-campus student life department, speaking with other transfers one-on-one throughout the peer mentoring process, and being able to get from them what they've been most concerned about, what problems they've been able to work through, what ones they needed a little bit more help on, and some of the challenges that they faced that they were maybe a little bit too nervous to even write home about throughout their entire process. A lot of the same concerns were taking place. They all have really good, solid solutions, and being able to follow up with them. Now they are all doing reasonably well, but in the moment, some of the challenges that they could expect that may not be on the forefront of most parents' radar would be wondering if their credits are going to transfer and how they even find that information out, where they can, get information that they need, what they should even look up on websites or what websites they should look for, finding activities to get involved in. Like, I mentioned that there are so many, sometimes it can be a bit overwhelming with all that information and not exactly knowing where they should even start or what they should do. Whether or not they can maintain a healthy schedule for themselves with eating and sleeping and studying, all highly recommended for college students. And if a lot of them being very concerned about finding friends and making connections. Some of the lingo I heard the most is not finding your tribe yet. So not finding those people that they may have found at their previous institutions that they were really looking forward to finding at a much larger institution like Maryland, with so many different diverse people and backgrounds on campus. And with all that happening, a lot of them can be overwhelmed and become very busy trying to do everything all at once. And sometimes they might need a little bit of a reminder to contact their families and reach out to them for what they need, or to let them know about the challenges that they're facing. So knowing a few of those challenges as a family member to your transfer student could definitely help them throughout the process and let them know that they are supported and make their process go a little bit more smoothly. As I was saying, it is really helpful to talk to your Terp throughout their entire process. So even if you aren't hearing back from them readily, I would definitely strongly encourage to not necessarily, unless they ask for it explicitly, give them a lot of space to figure it out. It is highly recommended that you reach out to your student and just say, hey, I am here for you. Just want to know how your first day of classes went or your first week. How is the adjustment period going? So some of the things that you can definitely, leave voicemails about or send texts, or even when you get them on the phone, some great conversation starters that I received feedback from my family, and the subjects of my surveys were just asking what events may have caught their eye, if they actually went to the events that they thought that they wanted to, and why they didn't go if they did not. See if they registered for the classes that they really wanted or the ones that they really needed. Figuring out whether or not they met with their major advisor, or if they need another advisor, if they're interested in graduate programs after their first degree, if they've met with advisors on how to get into those graduate programs or those professional schools. Figuring out whether or not they've made their graduation plan with their advisor, when they're projected to get out of their current program, if they found any organizations that catch their attention, and if their current schedule works for them, and if it's conducive to the lifestyle that they see for themselves and that you would best want to support for your student.
Most importantly, we think it's important for you to know that your student is not alone. Sometimes students in general, but particularly transfer students, can feel very alone in their process because they might feel like they're the only one that's going through this transition. And we try to sort of promote the message both in our transfer orientations and when we're speaking with students to let them know that that's not the case, that the vast majority of transfer students do feel the same way, and that they're not alone. They don't have to do this by themselves. There's lots of offices, people here that are invested in their success and want to see them have a positive experience. So what we wanted to do now that we've kind of covered some of the common challenges that students might experience, we wanted to go through all of the resources that our office offers and give some suggestions that you might be able to give your student as they're navigating this transition. So first of all, just wanted to talk a little bit about our office. So again, we're Transfer and Off-Campus Student Life. We're also known as TOCSL, that's our acronym here. We're located in the Stamp Student Union on the ground floor around the corner from the food court. And our office is open Monday through Fridays from 8:30 to 5. Our staff or the population we serve is made up entirely of transfer students as well as commuter students. And many times those populations overlap, although not always. And our programs, our events, everything is meant to serve our mission, which is to connect and engage transfer and off-campus students, to equip them with the knowledge and the resources they need to be successful students, to make sure they have a positive transition, and to make sure that they feel part of the UMD community. So how we do that is we run a variety of events and programs that are exclusive to transfer and off-campus students. And we try to always aim our events at not only providing them with engagement opportunities to connect with other students and with our staff members, but also to offer information about resources across campus. We like to sort of tout ourselves as the go-to resource for transfer students. We mentioned this in our transfer student orientation that, when you come to a big campus, you might not always know where to go if you have a question. So we encourage students, come to us. We often maybe don't know the exact answer, but we'll find it out for you, or we'll help you point you in the right direction. So students can always come to us if they're, want to just hang out and talk about how great their transition is going, or if they need help. And we're here for them regardless of, which of those spectrums they fall on. I already mentioned our location, and the last thing I just want to mention is that all of our information is always updated on our website, as well as our social media. So if you could encourage your student to follow us, we're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat, and our handle is @UMD TOCSL. In addition to our listserv, which students are typically on once they've attended one of our events, they will be on our listserv. We also update all of our event and program information on our website, as well as our social media. We try to keep our social media fun and engaging, so hopefully it's fun for them to follow as well, but also a great way to get information not only about our programs, but also things across campus. So for example, if we see a scholarship come up that we think would be applicable to our students, we will tweet it out as a scholarship alert. So we try to give information across campus as well.
One of the awesome resources that our office, the TOCSL office, does offer is the peer-to-peer mentoring, which I am super happy to be a part of. It is led entirely by other members of this office, like myself, engagement learning assistants. And we basically, it is just like it sounds, we meet with other transfer students who are going through their transition right now, or even a little later. We do keep in contact with them for as long as they're here and they definitely need our services, or just want to, reach out to us and let us know how things are going. They have year-round access to us, and we definitely like to keep in touch with them and let them know basically about the different events that we have going on that we think would be really beneficial to them and what they hope to get out of University of Maryland right now. But also we meet with them just to see how they're doing. They tend to email us questions or concerns from simple things like, where do I sign up for parking, or just overall, I think I want to switch my major and I don't really know how to go about that. And they're welcome to come into our office. We have office hours for drop-in visits that are going to be posted on our website. And we are able to also make appointments with them if they email us and they want to set up a specific time that works for their schedule to come in and just ask about our experience, tell us about theirs, ask questions, give us their concerns, and hopefully we can provide a little bit of support and relief for whatever it is that they are going through. And we like to often email them and keep in contact with them. Casey and some of the other graduate assistants are really great at making sure that we put that as one of our biggest priorities, is making sure that our peer-to-peer mentors, our mentees rather, are communicated with, and that they are able to come to our events and they feel like they are definitely a part of something, and that their voices are heard and that their needs are met. And that's one of the fantastic resources that they have available to them through our office. Another really great one that I also am happy to have been a part of in the past when I first transferred was transferred to Terp Learning Community, also known as T2T. It is a 4-credit class. It provides 3 credits to the student that is registered for it. It is just like any other regular class that goes onto their transfer, so they do get benefits, academic benefits from it, but they get so much more than just that, because it consists of only recent transfer students, and it exposes transfer students to a lot of the practices and resources that they might need to succeed at UMD. It exposes a lot of the options on this campus that I had never heard about when I first taken it. I did not know about the commuting, how to commute to campus, how to even commute on campus or just around the general area throughout the different services that Maryland offers for transportation. It is also led in the hub of the entire campus in SAM Student Union, and that is definitely purposefully done because it is near our office, so that they're familiar with that other resource available to them through the TOCSL office, but also so they can get accustomed to being in the student union, which is where so many things go on, and a lot of students do spend a lot of their time here. It is currently it's currently full, and there are spots on the waiting list. However, if you or your Terp is really interested in joining the class, they are welcome to contact Casey, whose information will appear at the end of this webinar. And you're welcome to reach out to her if you're interested, and she can definitely have a conversation with you about what can be done. But on a less formal approach to the exact same idea is our upcoming concept of transfer chats, which will be led weekly, but it will be not for credit. But it does do a lot of the same things that Transfer to Terp does like to emphasize as well. So there will be discussion on resources around campus and general help for students to help navigate them through their new transition to campus. And it's all around a supportive environment for transfer students with other transfer students who are kind of going through the same things that they might be going through, and can provide support mutually and get a lot of insight and knowledge that they might not have heard about or might not be able to hear about outside of this opportunity.
Another core part of our programming is our engagement events that we run throughout the semester. We have about 30 per year, so we definitely are quite busy during the semesters. One of the event series we run is called our Milk and Cookies sessions, and these are basically how-to sessions with students where we pair current and transfer students who have been through a particular experience and they want to share their expertise. So for example, last semester we held a how to find a scholarship workshop, and we brought in some campus partners and some current transfer students who we see really as experts that have gotten a number of scholarships and took a couple different approaches to it. So they were able to share with students their strategies and their resources that they use to find scholarships. This fall, we're running one on how to study abroad. So we're bringing in some transfer and off-campus students who have been through the study abroad experience, so they can share a little bit about how they went through that process, you know, how they enjoyed the process, and specifically to give particularly transfer students any particular tips of things that they think that they should consider as they're studying abroad. We're also doing one on how to use library services and how to find an on-campus job. So those are some of the milk and cookie sessions that we're running this semester. And we change the topics every semester to keep it relevant for what students are looking for. We also hold a number of what we call our meetup events, and these are social engagement opportunities for students to meet and greet and get to know other students. We try to keep them fun. So this semester we're doing a trip to Fright Fest, we're doing a trip to the UMD Adventure course, we're doing a trivia night, we're doing a movie viewing, we're going to a soccer game. So, you know, we hold a variety of events every semester, and all those events are updated on our website as well as on our social media as well. Another one of our signature programs is called our Good Morning Commuters Breakfast. This is a free breakfast for transfer and off-campus students, and it's from 7:30 to 10:30 every first Wednesday of the month. This is really popular. We have a very high attendance at this event, not only because it's free food, which is always a plus, but also because it's a great way for students to meet and greet and chat with other students who also live off campus. So it's a great way to meet other students. We've even had students that have met their best friend at Good Morning Commuters, or have even found carpooling buddies at Good Morning Commuters. We also, to make it useful, we also bring in campus partners who will share information with students about a particular office or event or program. So such as, for example, our Department of Transportation Services, our Student Organization Research Center, the Health Center, just a number of offices across campus that are eager to chat and give information to transfer and off-campus students. This is also a nice place for our commuting students to just chill, really, and to have a nice quiet, not necessarily quiet, because it's pretty lively there, but a space for themselves to study or to meet with other students. It's kind of their space that morning, and we know that we hear from students that it really means a lot to them. So we're always happy that we're able to do that for students. So that is our presentation. We are more than happy to answer any questions you might have. I do know you might be wondering about additional resources across campus. We are happy to provide that information, although I know Kate has a number of other webinars on topics like that are coming up. But at this time, I'll hand it back over to Kate to facilitate any questions we might have.
Thank you so much, Casey and Imani. And folks who are attending, feel free to send in your questions. It should be in the dashboard that you're able to view this webinar through. So I'll give it a few minutes just in case there's any questions that come in. But I actually have one for Imani. As a experienced transfer Terp, was there anything that your parents and family said or did that really worked for you and supported you in the transition to Maryland that would be like your personal best practice that you could recommend to the folks who are listening today?
Absolutely. Thank you, Kate. My mom was very, very supportive throughout my entire process. A lot of the struggles that I originally faced was just figuring out when I was going to graduate. One of the biggest concerns that I hear from a lot of transfer students is that when they do transfer, figuring out how many credits will go through, when they can get out of here, for financial reasons, for personal reasons, just wanting to start their career, their next steps and next phase in life. And that was like a big burden on my back, was just wanting to get out. And my mom was just like, hey, I just want you to know you're putting this pressure on yourself, but I'm not doing that for you. I want you to have the experience in college that you're going to really enjoy, because you're going to basically work for the rest of your life. So I really want you to have a great time now. And I want you to get out of college everything you need to get out of college. So do the major that makes you the most happy, that you feel like you'll be the best at and perform really well at. And if that means that you might have to take a little bit of extra time, do not stress yourself out about it. She basically was just very great at listening to my needs, but also just letting me know that college is not easy. So doing what is right for me to make sure that I'm performing the best and at the level that she knows that I can perform at was most important to her. And however that, takes place, whether that means lessening my course load a little bit, or changing up my activities and my sleep schedule, or moving home, or whatever that case may be, she was fully supportive of whatever I needed to make sure that I was performing the best and actually coming out of college with a degree that I could be proud of, and not just, hurrying to get out for whatever reasons.
And if I could just add in one thing to that really awesome answer, because that is definitely a concern I hear from students a lot, is they want to know, when they're going to graduate. If I could encourage families and parents, a great question to ask your student is, have they met with their academic advisor yet? Or do they know who their academic advisor is? The vast majority of majors across campus will actually one-on-one assign you an academic advisor. Some offices do it just as an office, so they'll say, if you're, this major, just go into the advising office and meet with them once a semester. But for many students, it's required to meet with their academic advisor, but sometimes students tend to put it off until the end of the semester, just because, as Imani said, they can get very busy. And so, if your student's a little bit nervous about that, that's a great question to ask them, because meeting with their academic advisor is really the go-to resource that students are going to use to find out that information.
And if I can just add to what Casey just said, the one thing my mom always did was I would tell her when I was going to go to my advisor, if she asked me, if I was going to make a plan to meet with my advisor. And now I call her after every advising appointment, just to let her know exactly what I just heard and just found out while I'm walking to my car, to my next class, just so that it can be on her radar, so I don't forget to tell her. Or she would literally text me or call me and say, how did your advising appointment go? Just so that she can know and be on the up and up about what my next steps are. And that's also really, really helpful to have like everyone on the team aware of the game plan.
Great. And actually, that's a perfect segue. We got a question from a parent who's interested in knowing how transfer students locate their academic advisors. In terms of like contacting them, obviously always encourage an email. You might have to, contact the office to set up a time. But how would a transfer student know who their academic advisor is?
Sure. So I can help answer that question. Then maybe, Imani, you can share how you found out that information as a new student. So like I mentioned, it's going to vary a little bit from major to major, because they handle it in slightly different ways. For the most majors, I would say their students should get an email. Basically from the advisor, introducing themselves and encouraging them to make an appointment. In some cases, students may not get the email because perhaps their email on record is out of date. And students can actually update that on Testudo. So if they need to update their email address, it's just www.testudo.umd.edu. And on that website, there's a little button there right at the top that says update address and email address. So if your student has not gotten an email, they can do two things. One is to make sure that their email is updated. But the second is to go ahead and call the advising office to ask, to say, hey, have I been assigned an advisor yet? How do I, do it, go through advising? And so the students can find that information just simply by Google. I use Google. I tell students Google is your best friend. So for example, if I'm, let's say, letters and sciences, I can type in, letters and sciences advising, and I should get a number. Or, if I'm a sociology major, sociology, undergraduate advising, and we can do, you can do a little Google sleuthing, but also I would encourage you, if you're not sure, feel free to email us, and we're also happy to provide you that phone number. I do that quite a bit for students to kind of sit down with them and do some creative Google sleuthing to find out that information, or sometimes I just know the website, so feel free to encourage them to contact us if they're not sure who to call.
Yes, and just adding on to that, one of the awesome things about UMD, especially when you transfer, is that you're admitted into a specific either major or into letters and sciences for those who are trying to get into a limited enrollment program or have not declared a major or decided on one yet. And you actually have to meet with your advisor up until a certain point, depending on the major that you are, before you can register for your next semester. So there is one of those blocks on your account basically until you meet with your advisor, to really encourage students to make sure that they are signing up for classes that are suitable for them and for the needs that they're trying to fulfill in order to graduate. And I'm a big fan of Googling, as well as Casey said, but also going into walk-in hours, because when you do Google that, that advising appointment number or email, sometimes a lot of majors will also offer walk-in hours, especially if you're enrolled in more than one major, or if your degree is being overseen by not just your major, but another department as well. There are walk-in advisors hours available as well, but giving a phone call or sending an email, and they typically can set you up with an advising appointment pretty quickly. The call is maybe 5 minutes. You can definitely encourage them as they're walking to the next class or something, if they can't make it the walk-in hours, to set up an appointment as soon as possible, preferably before their next registration period, just so that it doesn't fill up and they can know exactly what it is that they need to do.
Great. Thank you so much, both Casey and Imani. I really appreciate having you here with us today. I think that's all the time that we have for questions. But for the folks who are still attending, just want to do a little light housekeeping. We record all of our webinars. So if you were to check back on our website, TerpFamily.umd.edu, you would find a link to our YouTube page. This might be a webinar that you want to watch with other members of your family, or perhaps with your student, who knows. So you can access that recording within the next 24 to 48 hours. You're also going to receive a short assessment survey from TerpFamily.umd.edu. We encourage you all to fill that out so that way we know how we did, and then hopefully get some ideas for other webinars that you would like to see in the future. You'll see on your screen now we have a lot of different ones coming up, so encourage you all to register and sign up for those, but we welcome new ideas. Thank you so much, Casey and Imani. Everybody have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.